Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to our distinguished FCC panel. And I am pleased that we are holding this hearing. We are going to have to grapple with the evolving technology and convergence between traditionally distinct businesses like telecommunications and video program distribution. We want to look at this type of consolidation's impact on consumers and competitors, but we also want to make sure that policy determinations about this deal do not impact innovation and investment in this rapidly moving area. In my judgment, the FCC's review of this transaction should be limited to the transfer of the relevant licenses between the parties and whether that is consistent with the public interest. Merger reviews at the Commission have not always stayed as narrow as I believe they should. Frequently, parties have used merger review proceedings as a proxy policymaking forum to pursue conditions that reach well beyond the merger itself. In a number of cases, previous FCCs have imposed some of these conditions. While I hope that the current Commission will thoughtfully conduct its public interest analysis, I also hope they avoid imposing conditions that will require a significant ongoing involvement of the government in monitoring and policing the market. In that context, Mr. Chairman, I would like to note that we have seen some recent disputes between programmers, broadcasters, and cable providers about the terms for retransmission of signals on cable systems, mainly in the sports arena, and that has led some to suggest that we need more government involvement in these marketplace negotiations, such as through FCC-managed arbitration. Again, I think Congress and the regulators need to tread very carefully and make sure that the policies we discuss take account of the evolving nature of the marketplace, the competition between providers, and the growing number of choices consumers have to access content. What we do not want to do is intervene in private market negotiations in a way that disrupts what's going on in the marketplace or leads to advantages for one stakeholder or technology. With respect to the Comcast-NBC transaction, Mr. Chairman, I do have a number of questions, particularly how a combined entity would deal with independently owned broadcast stations. In a number of cases, non-NBC-owned stations will have to negotiate the terms for retransmission of their broadcast signal with the very same company that provides its programming. How Comcast will deal with those stations from a transparency perspective is important for us to understand how this transaction could impact one segment of the industry. Texas has 14 Telemundo stations, 3 of which Comcast will own and operate. We also have 21 NBC stations, 1 of which will be owned and operated by Comcast. Consumers in Texas want to know how programming and availability of all these stations will be impacted, but they particularly want to know whether Comcast will continue to invest in and develop programming for the stations, and that NBC and Telemundo will remain available as free over-the-air stations. Now, I understand that the chairman of Comcast has made commitments in this area, which I think are very positive. Remaining free over-the-air stations is an essential component of this transaction, in my opinion. Transparency will be important in this area, but it will also be critical to assessing how Comcast will deal with competitors who want access to NBC programming, as well as affiliated programming developed by Comcast, such as its sports programming. I have heard from a number of smaller cable systems representing primarily rural areas of my state. Although bundling or tying arrangements are prohibited, there are concerns that the combined company may wish, through pricing arrangements, to strongly encourage the smaller systems to accept multiple streams of programming. I will be interested in hearing Mr. Roberts' thoughts on how Comcast will address those concerns. I'm also interested to hear how he and other witnesses view the 16 voluntary commitments that Comcast has made, some of which I've heard personally, and whether those conditions adequately ensure transparency and availability of content to consumers and competitors. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding this hearing. Thank you for appearing. I think it's important that we look at all of this, and I just hope that we don't overdo it, but that we do just the right amount of regulatory and congressional action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Hutchinson. Senator Hutchinson, like myself, has to go